So this video is about how to put in a bass string. It's not very rare that I work on an old piano from like you know, the pre-1930 era, and the piano will be extremely flat, like sometimes as much as 100 cents, sometimes even more. And I actually did one today and brought it up to pitch, no problem. The lady said that the previous technician had said, I'm just going to leave it at ½ cents flat, I'm afraid of breaking strings. Well, I think it's more important to bring the piano up to pitch and take the risk of breaking strings. More often than not, strings don't break, but once in a while, because you're introducing tension on those strings that they haven't seen for, in most cases, decades, occasionally one does break. So I don't believe in universal strings. They sound really, really bad. I never ever use universal strings. I'll tell you about what universal strings are later, John, but I always get them custom made. So to get them custom made, there are 4 measurements that I take. The 4 measurements, I take the old string, and the first measurement is the distance from the hitch pin, where that goes on, to the beginning of the winding, the total length of the winding. So usually that'll be, well, I guess it could be in the 40 inches, something like that, or more, depending on the piano, or less, depending on the piano. So that distance there, hitch pin, beginning of the winding, total length of the winding, and then we have 2 diameters. The diameter of the steel core, right in here, which on this piano I'm guessing is probably in the high 40s. It's probably, I don't know, 45, 40, yeah, probably 45.
A couple of labels.
Something like that, okay. And then the diameter, let's look at these labels. Okay, so there's the diameters. 46 inches is the diameter of the, is that coming through? This is what I had custom made.
There you go.
So the 4 measurements are 6.5 inches, which is this distance here to this distance there. We have 46 5/8 inches, which is the total distance of the winding. 46 thousandths of an inch, which I do with calipers, which is this thickness here, the diameter of the steel core, and 100 thousandths, which is the diameter of the copper core, or copper winding rather. So based on
that measurement from here to here,
yeah.
Where is it taken on this end of that loop? I mean, is it taken on?
I take it on the inside of the loop, since that's where the hitch pin will be.
On the long side?
On the short side.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I take it. So
it'd basically be
where the hitch pin is.
So to speak, butting right up to the hitch pin.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. So based on those 4 measurements, I call it into the supply house, and they send it out there. They usually send it out the next day, and I've got my string, go back to the customers and put it in, and they come in with it in a coil like that. Okay, so this is one of the 2 strings here. The string that I have laying there is the other. So the way to begin is I'll put that on the hitch pin. Let's look down here where I have this on this hitch pin. See that? And then you don't have to, but sometimes it makes it easier to put vice grips on that hitch pin to secure it on.
Yeah, because it'll come off.
Yeah, it can come off, and then I put it on the bridge. I'm going to be twisting that string a little bit later, but put it on the bridge, just like that. So then the next step, and by the way, you can do this with the action on. It's a little bit trickier. You have to make sure when you're feeding that string down in the action. So, you know, in this scenario, you'd be feeding it. What I do is I put it in between the 2 dampers that correspond to the string, feed it slowly down in there, and when I get it down underneath the key bed, I'll pull it down and then I'll pull it tight and do my best to make sure that I haven't accidentally wrapped it around one of its neighbors. And usually I don't. Occasionally because it can be squirrely, it'll do that. No big deal, just unwind it. But that usually doesn't happen. So, and I do that when I'm in a customer's home and, you know, I'm trying to go as fast as I can. So I don't want to deal with taking the action out, just save, you know, 5 minutes or whatever. Okay, next step, so I'm going to pull it up. So this is the one that ran. Yes. Okay, I'm going to put it around its pin here, and then I use my 4 fingers as a measurement. So I'm going to measure from here to here, and I'm going to cut it, and that's going to give me the right number of loops.
They're past the pin.
Past the pin. That's right. So here's the pin that I'm shooting for. I'm going to put my finger right there, hold it right in that little crease of my hand, and cut it.
And that 4 fingers is about the length to wind around the pin
3 times. Yeah, that's right. So now I'm going to get that cut is made. I'm going to get that pin ready. I'm going to unwind that pin just so that, well, it's unwound already, but I'll unwind it a little bit more just to be absolutely certain. And I don't think we run any risk of going too far at this point. Yeah, that's plenty. Okay, then you can use 2 different tools. This is the tool that I use to make my coils. It's just some brass stock with holes drilled in it, and you can see I've used it thousands of times, cutting the Beckett's, cutting holes in that, or cutting slots in that brass. So here's how to do that.
If you don't have that tool, you can wind it around a pin, right?
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Just take it off.
Yeah, you can wind it around you can put it in a little a dowel, essentially, like a broom handle cut into a chunk that long. Hold on to it, and then put a tuning pin in a hole in that broom handle or the dowel or whatever, and then use a tuning pin crank to spin it around. Okay, this is what I use just because it's so easy and it fits and it's convenient. Okay, I'm going to go with this. I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm going to go right up to the edge, right there where it's like flush with the edge. I'm going to turn it, I guess that's clockwise. I'm going to turn it to the right, and I'm going to try and pass that hole halfway. See how it covers half the hole. Keep going clockwise, and then I'm going to aim for my string there, and that going. So that's around, is that 2.5 times? About like that. Use these needle nose to get it out of there. Put it on. It's a nice length there. Grab this Beckett. I can. I want to avoid scratching the tuning pin if I can. Why don't you come over here, Mark? Yeah. If I'm able to avoid scratching the pin, I'd prefer that. I think I avoided it. I can't quite see where that one is. It's a little too dark.
You might need to turn the pin a little this way.
We have a flashlight in here. Okay, there it is. Grab that Beckett bend, and I have it now in the hole there. I put it in the hole. I'm going to see if I can force it a little bit more in the hole. Sometimes it'll stay, sometimes not. So there, I got it. You see that? Yeah, got it. Forced it all the way, but it's going to pop out a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to take it off the hitch pin at the bottom, grab it with the vice grips and spin it around. Some people say half a revolution. Sometimes you can do a full revolution in the direction of the winding. Of course, when these strings are made, they're made with copper windings, you know, all the way around. They have machines and they feed the copper coil. The wire is spinning and they feed the copper coil onto it. So you want to it tightens up those coils if you spin it in the direction of the winding. So when it's up to pitch, you're less likely to have a buzzing string, which sounds awful. It sounds like a sizzle, and it's less likely to happen when you go in the direction of the winding. So I'm going to grab a flashlight that helps me see which direction the winding is. Take this off. And grab the string. I like to grab it at an angle like that because I'm going to be putting it on the hitch pin like that. And it looks like the direction of the winding is this way. So twist it in the direction of the winding, put it back on. And just to be sure, put this back on. Hopefully that'll stay. Put it back on the bridge.
Is that the right spot? Or is it?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. There.
I mean, or was that string supposed to be on that lower outside peg?
No, it is supposed to be on. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure that this is on its target. This is the tool that is especially easy on bass strings because there's a lot of room to fit in there and pull that coil tight. Whereas up here, it works well on these outside pins, but like, you know, down here it's more difficult. So when I'm replacing the string up here, I'll use like a screwdriver or something, or I have a hook that I can go in there and grab it, or I'll use an awl. Try and be careful I don't scratch things up, to just kind of pry it up a little bit
To keep the coil
to
tight.
keep that coil tight as I pull it up to pitch. Okay, but this pin that we're doing here has plenty of access. Okay, I'm going to pull the coil tight so that it's covering half the. Okay, do you see that? Actually, I'm going to cover a little bit more because I'm going to hammer it down a little bit. So it should be covering. Let's get the flashlight on that. Should be covering. At the end, I'm going to want it to be covering half the hole. Right now, I want it to cover more. Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to turn it a little bit. And at one point, that becket will stay. So right now it stayed better, but it's still popping out a little bit. So I'm going to turn it a little bit more. Force that becket in. There. You can see that it stays much better now. You can hear that. Okay, so here's what we want. What we're shooting for is we want those coils straight. Straight this way on the pin as much as possible. Of course, they're coiling around, so they have to be at a slight angle, but we don't want them. We don't want it at more of an angle, or less of an angle than, I guess, as little as angle as possible, so that they're tight and straight. We want 3 coils. I think that's kind of a tradition. I'm not sure why it's 3 coils. That's just how I've always done it, how I was taught, and how you pass the exam for the registered piano technician exam.
I took strings off a piano, they had 4.
Yeah, older ones occasionally I do see that.
Or I think some of the newer high loons had 4.
They may, yeah, they may have. And again, I don't know why, I don't know where the 3 comes from. And I'm going to keep pushing that Beckett in as I go. I'm not done with this yet. I like to also use vice grips to force the Beckett in so that it's really tight, because you have the compound action forcing that in. Yeah, okay, that's nice, and the Beckett is in there nice and tight. Okay, now this string happens to be G sharp 2. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my offset to 15 cents sharp, which is right there, 15.12, whatever. So the offset now it's tuned to that far sharp. Actually, I'm going to play a G sharp 2 because this piano was restrung. Just to make sure I've got the right general vicinity. That coil is long. It's close to the pin there. I'm not happy about how long that is, but
I think that was the issue.
that was the concern that you had with it. Well, we'll see how it sounds, I guess. Make sure that could affect the. This is a triple unison here, so that could affect the unisons, and if it's noticeable, we'll replace that. And we'll make it to a shorter spec so that all of these line up. Okay, so we're up to G sharp 2 plus it's 15 cents sharp. Okay, then we use this to okay, can you see here that's covering half the hole? That's about right. And that means that if it's a half a revolution from here to here, it should cover half the hole, because on the other side it goes in the entire hole. Half the revolution, it covers half the hole. I'm just gonna use this. I'm gonna use a brass rod again, because brass is softer than steel, just to make sure that this is tight. If I don't tighten it up nice and snug, there could be some energy left in there. So let's see what that did there. So that detuned it just by tapping it about 20 cents or so. 15 cents. Then I'm going to use this, which is a coil tightener. It's just this steel thing that I'm going to go in the direction of the coil. So I'm going to go this way, not this way. I'm going to go this way. It's about I go 100 times. I find that it doesn't really affect it anymore. And what it does is it kind of knocks the string. It knocks the string and it just kind of tightens it up around that pin. And you'll notice, watch this. You hear it go flat there? So that's about 30, 40, 50, 80, 90, and that's about 100. So now it should be way flat, which it's about 35 cents flat. Okay, now here's the final step. When I'm in a customer's home, I'll always pre-bend those wherever the string bends are. Oh shoot! I forgot to tap this pin in. I also forgot to do the hitch pin at the bottom, but I can probably do it at this stage. Be okay. Okay, let's go back down here. So that string is right there. I'll put this on. I like to just see no movement, and I wasn't seeing any movement there. Did you see how
Make
first?
sure it's flat down toward the bottom.
Yeah, flat against the plate, so that there's no potential for that hitch pin to move at all. And then I'm also going to pound that in.
On the pin in.
Pound the pin in so that it's even with its neighbors. Out too far, right? It actually only needs a little bit. Oh, that's fine. So now it should be even with its neighbors. Now I'm going to pull it up 15 cents sharp. Then, now that it's 15 cents sharp, I'm going to use again the brass rod to pre-stress all of those bends. So let's go back down. I'm going to start down here. Where's that? There it is. Is that it? There it is. Right there. Put it here, right at the bridge, and I'm trying to get that bend. I'm just gonna give a little tap. And then on this side, give that a little bend. And then finally up here. Ugh, that coil is so close. I usually do it right there, but there's not really enough room there. That moved a little bit. Tells me that it bent. Now, yeah, perfect. It's like 14 cents flat, which the offset is 15 cents sharp, so it's like right at pitch. So at this point, what I'll do if I'm at a customer's home is I'll take a little piece of felt temperament strip, which is this right here, and I'll cut off that much, put it in here so that it cut off right there, and I might do a second one down below if that note is bleeding through, so that person can still play this note, because it's triple unison, so they're going to still hear those two notes. But until I come the next time, which is 6 months or a year, that note will be muted out, because even if I were to tune it right on, an hour or two from now, or even less, 15 minutes from now, it'll be way flat. So I'll tune it sharp, I'll tune it like, I don't know, 15 cents sharp or so, because it's still going to stretch over the course of that 6-month or a year period. And hopefully that, you know, my estimate, if it's up at the top, I'll tune it sharper than 15 cents sharp. If it's down here, most of those bends will take care of all that, and it'll stretch maybe 15, 20, maybe 30 cents, something like that. Up towards the top, I might tune it as much as 50 cents sharp, 40 cents maybe, because over the course of the year it'll stretch down, and hopefully by the time I get there it'll be
And so
right on.
about a year thereabouts, it takes to set in and it stays at that point.
Well, I think it takes less than a year. I've never done tests on it to know exactly how long it takes, but most of my customers, I do their piano every 6 months or a year, and so I just like to just remove it from the equation by putting these cutting felt and putting it in there, sometimes just at the top, sometimes at the top and the bottom, just so that it removes it from the equation altogether. So that's how to replace a string.
Thank you, Brigham.
You're welcome.